Assassin Masterclass 201 10k damage per second tutorial. Now before jumping into this too heavy, a couple of things you should know. One, this is situational. For instance, if you're in an instance and you don't have the stats, you won't make it there. If you're in the instance and you're tanking, you won't make it there, with the exception of maybe having a chanter / songweaver with WoW or sod up. Now these are my stats that I use. As you can see, there's nothing really special. I'm running Boundless Dagger of Hope, which is very easily attainable, and I'm running a full DD set. With the exception of the dagger, it's all plus 15. My accessories are actually nothing special at all either. Dawnwing accessory set, and the enchantments don't matter whatsoever. Well, you might be saying, well, your crit is so low, your accuracy is low. Well, I've got other accessories and other armor to take care of that for me. I've also got other weapons, like provenance weapons, as you can see. My plume is a +7 attack crit plume, pure, as you can see. Also have a +7 bracelet. The 2 mana stone slots are quite nice. I'm using a pair of +10 PvP wings. It doesn't really matter if they're PvP wings or not, they're just +10. The extra attack is very nice. As you can see, I'm level 73, a little ways through, so I've got quite a few points. I'm not using any essence cores because they're damn expensive to craft. And I'm a nice guy, so the first ones I craft, they go to my fiance. I'll get to my essence points in a moment. I'm using a 3% attack speed title. 2%, you should still be able to get there as long as you weave properly. Stigma setup. Now, my earlier point about not really being able to do this too well if you're tanking, well, Scoundrel's Bond plays into that. The damage boost from Scoundrel's Bond as well as the healing is very important. Dash and slash is very hard hit. Within a 3-minute parse, you're only going to use it once, maybe twice if you have it enchanted. You use it once at the beginning and once at the end. Coupled with another skill, you'll see why I use this skill. Apply Lethal Venom, also nothing special. Chance procs for extra damage. In a 3-minute parse, you're only going to use this once. Deadly Abandon, the one quintessential skill that you have to have for PvE. If you're not running it, well, you're stupid. Venomous Strike, this is a preference thing for me. I like having another backstab because, well, it hurts like hell and the animation is very fast. Eye of Wrath, guaranteed crit once on a 1-minute cooldown. Now most won't use this because the animation is long and, well, that animation sucks. But coupled with dash and slash, it usually rounds out to a 10k to 13k hit at the very start, which is very nice to keep your damage high and keep it high longer. Now to essence points. I've got 40 into power and 30 into precision. Now in this particular gear setup, I'm not using very many ancient mana, not ancient, but Archdeva mana stones, just 2. So I really don't have to worry about hitting the soft cap for power or precision. So I'm running 40. Now if I was using my PvP gear that has plenty of ancient Archdeva mana stones in it, I would switch this around. This wouldn't be this. And I would also have points in the HP. As you can see, this is grayed out on my screen. Will not be using a vessel transformation for this, being that I think it's cheating because I'll get an AoE and hit these other training dummies. not exactly what I want to do. This is the bread and butter. I have a few points into the most often used skills being Fang Strike Chain, Rune Carve, and Swift Edge and Rune Slash. You might be wondering why I have points in the Rune Slash and not the secondary chain skill Soul Slash. Well, that's a good question, and here is the answer. I'm using Soul Shatter Cleave. Now the reason for that is when you have Soul Shatter Cleave, Swift Edge Chain always hits 3 times instead of 2 with a chance at 3. That is an extra skill to actually weave into your rotations. That is also an extra skill to increase the time you're using a particular chain skill. So you have more of a window to get to your next set of skills without a cooldown, so to speak, in the middle. So you're not going to run out of skills as easily if you're weaving properly. Now you could be wondering why I'm using points, so many points into so many skills rather than say maxing out my precision or maxing out 1 or 2 skills, say the backstabs or say assassination. Well, it's quite simple. The base damages on these skills are far more important than just raw stats. For instance, at base 593 to 632, 637 to 666, well 676, I'm sorry I can't read. The base stats on these skills are so low, but the small amount of increases that you get from putting points in them almost increases your damage exponentially when you crit on them. Swift Edge, 861 to 900 with 4 points into it. 1.786 to 825. That's a massive jump. I also use Iluform Candy for the 3% attack speed, and 3 attack is kind of nice too, but it's pretty inconsequential. I use 1 hour crit scrolls because, well, I'm cheap and I have a lot of them. I also use attack food. I don't really need the extra crit, and if I'm in an instance where crit is a little more extensive needed, well, I have contingencies for that. My crit is usually around 1500. Without further ado, let's get this on the road. Notice the buff rotation on why, and I'll tell you why I use certain things after this. Except that I did not mean to hit that. As I have flurry up, I weave every skill, because the amount of time I'm spending on auto attacks between them is very low. As I lose flurry, I stop weaving every skill and go into a slightly different rotation, as I do not weave every skill of the entire Fang Strike chain, and I do not weave every skill of assassination or the backstab chain. I jump backwards on things like that, being that sometimes you get that message, well, you can't see your target, and I hate that. So in order to alleviate that, I jump backwards. Apparently I was too stupid to put some pots in the inventory before I started doing this. that gives me another opportunity to show you something else about using pots at the correct time. Always use a pot during an animation for an auto attack or an animation for a skill if you can. That way you don't get a pause between when you do it and your character does a pot animation. That way you don't worry about throwing your DPS off from a pot animation. Believe me, it sucks. .134. It's not hard, very doable. Weaving is very important. As you can see, the majority of my skills were weaved with very little animation, if not AAC completely. Buff management is extraordinarily important also, as using certain skills without weaving between them is going to cut your damage. For instance, you should always be weaving between skills like Killer's Eye, Devotion, Flurry, and Scoundrel's Bond. At the beginning, I use the skills that require the least amount of maintenance first, as I won't be losing much. For instance, I'm only going to use one skill on Eye of Wrath and Killer's Eye, so I use those first. I need to regenerate a little bit of mana very quickly early on, so Slayer Form is used after that. That's going to cost a little mana for using Slayer Form, but it's going to refund the mana from Eye of Wrath and Killer's Eye almost immediately. Follow that with Deadly Abandon, as it's the longest buff we have, so I can afford to use it early and not sacrifice a major hit in damage over time. Scoundrel's Bond, I use that because its cooldown is a little shorter because I have it enchanted to 3. And I use Flurry directly after that because the faster I use my next few skills, the faster I can get to damaging and losing the majority of my next buffs, Deadly Focus and Devotion. This has been Masterclass 201 10k DPS tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free.